Welcome to the Somatic Coaching Academy podcast with Ani and Brian. Join us as we explore the art and science of trauma-sensitive somatic practices and tools to strengthen your practice as a coach, therapist, or holistic professional. Master the art of motivating even the most challenging clients when you'll understand how to tap into and unlock your client's complete holistic intelligence. If you want to learn the most cutting-edge, research-supported skills for personal and professional mastery, you've come to the right place. Let's get this conversation started.
Hi, and welcome to the Somatic Coaching Academy podcast. Hi there, Brian.
Hi, Ani.
We're on episode 14 today, and we're talking about what somatic inquiry is. What is that? I was just asking my body yesterday.
Asking your body what is somatic inquiry. Yeah. Very self-reflective question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like to ask myself really good questions because I know that the quality of my life really is determined by the quality of the questions that I ask.
I like to ask myself, what is somatic inquiry? It's actually just asking questions, as you indicated, Ani, is kind of fun and really powerful.
It is.
So the whole idea of inquiring.
Yeah. When I was a kid, that they used to do the inquiring minds want to know. I don't remember what that was.
Exactly.
I said that in front of our teenagers the other day, and they didn't know what I was talking about. It totally fell flat. But you're right? Like inquiring is interesting. Asking questions is fun. It's the base component of what coaching is all about.
Yeah.
Coaching is all about asking great questions. We do that in the first lesson in the SBMC program. We talk about what coaching is, and we talk about how it's asking great questions. And that's one of the reasons I love being a somatic coach, is because you can ask just really awesome questions, and questions that, unless somebody's had somatic coaching before, they could have coaching for years and years and years and never get some of the questions that a somatic coach is going to ask them.
Yeah. So really, somatic coaching is filled with somatic inquiry, because coaching is about asking questions. Inquiring is about asking questions. Inquiring means that there's something we want to know more about, so we inquire into it. And with the whole idea of somatic inquiry, we're inquiring about the body or having the body be a part of that inquiry. I like to think about somatic inquiry being we're asking the body about information, which is kind of an interesting way to think about that as well. So let's just talk about, can we just talk about questions for a moment first?
Well, I think it's funny we answered the question already. What is somatic inquiry? It's asking the body questions. So let's talk more about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically it, right? We're asking the body questions, and that's what a somatic coach really does. So it's all kind of wound together there. But there's something interesting about asking questions alone, and whether you're asking a question about the body or anything else. I know the power of a really persistent question, Ani, in my memory banks. We kind of just talked about a persistent question,
like one that just keeps coming up.
And that's the thing about questions. As soon as you ask a question, we are programmed to answer the question.
Yeah, I do think that's so fascinating.
Right?
We're programmed to answer questions.
Yeah, actually, scientists call this a reflex of what they call instinctive elaboration.
I've never heard that.
So as soon as I ask you a question, like, where are my car keys?
I think they're hanging on the hook in the mudroom.
I think about the power of a question. We were talking about this a couple of days ago. So several Christmases ago.
Oh, yeah.
I could not find my car keys.
Right.
And so it was actually not at Christmas. It was like in November, like early November. I could not find my car keys. And it
must have been after Thanksgiving.
I'm asking everywhere, where are my car keys?
Yeah.
And it just, it was just like, I was on this instinctive, elaborative pursuit of like, where are my car keys all the time? Where are my car keys? Asking everyone in the house, where are my car keys? Have you seen the car keys? I'm asking the question about the car keys. It was like, wouldn't let go. I was like, it was driving me crazy because I couldn't get the answer to the question.
Yeah.
And so when we ask a question, if we don't get the answer to the question or we don't resolve it, our mind just keeps doing it.
What is that
keeps
called?
Going again. Instinctive elaboration.
Huh.
Means we'll just focus on the answer or trying to get the answer to the question.
Yeah. I see that with my clients all the time.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Of course, the big reveal about my car keys several years ago.
Yeah. They were in the Christmas stocking, or what, he must have been like 7 or
Yeah, right.
something, 6
6 or 7
at that time, had found the car keys, and I don't know why. Decided to put them in, was it your
my Christmas
in
stocking.
your stocking?
So,
but I think the funniest part of the story is that he forgot about it just about as soon as they went into the stocking.
yeah.
Of course, he forgot about it. And so Christmas Day comes and you reach into your stocking and you pull
my
out
car keys
your car
are in
keys.
my Christmas stocking. And he's
never
and then
forget
he's
the
like,
look on his face.
oh yeah, that's where I put those in there. After I've been asking for 2 months, like whatever, 2 months, like where are my car keys? Anyway, so I was instinctive elaborating all over the place, right? So just kind of driving, get the answer to that question. So as soon as we ask a question, it's like all other nervous system function kind of stops and we go to answer that question, which is really interesting when we start talking about somatic inquiry. Because I think what we see with our clients and with our students, right? Well, we have a 4-step process that we go through at the Somatic Coaching Academy, a 4-step process of change, right? Become aware of, decode, modify, and reframe someone's sensory experience so that they can create the results in their life that they really want. So that's kind of part of that coaching process. And the first step is to become aware of. And people can come in with a top of mind problems, right? Oh my God, like we're not going to make our sales goals this month. Really freaked out about that. I'm having a lot of stress. Oh my God, like I'm having a really terrible and difficult time with my primary partner. And as soon as you ask them a question and reference that question to their body, it's like they get focused on that area.
I think I just answered a question for myself, Brian.
Oh, really?
As I was listening to you talk about this, our students all the time, they tell us that this work is the missing piece. This work is the missing piece. They say it over and over and over. And we'll say to them, what do you mean? Missing piece of what? Like, tell me more, because we'd love to know. And it's always a little bit different answer around that. But I think in listening to you talk about this and reflecting on it myself, it makes sense because we're programmed to answer questions. And we're always asking questions, and we're always answering questions from our intellect.
Right.
So of course, we're going to feel like there's a missing piece because the intellect is only a fraction of our overall intelligence. So it makes perfect sense. Thank you. I have finally resolved that question for myself about why our students say it's the missing piece.
So I'm curious.
Yeah.
So you've just resolved the question.
I did.
And how does that feel in your body?
It feels really good. It feels like a settling. I feel really settled. Like I feel like my energy is going down towards the chair instead of like, up. Like
that's really cool because one of the things that happens when you're asked a question is it activates a part of your brain called the striatum. And there's a part of that's connected there called the nucleus accumbens. And this is the primary reward and pleasure center of your brain.
I feel very rewarded right now.
So isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And so then you end up with some type of combination of serotonin and dopamine happen when you're asked the question, it activates those reward centers. It's like, I gotta get the answer. Because once you know when the answer comes, it's gonna feel good.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love that you said serotonin because part of what I feel is that answer is resolved is like this settling kind of like prolonged, it doesn't feel like a dopamine hit, although it sounds like there's some dopamine in there as well. Like it feels like I feel satiated, that serotonin thing.
So there you are in real life time. Yeah. We just saw the neurological and neurohormonal effects of being asked and answering a question.
Yeah. And it's true. Like the questions that we ask really do frame the quality of our lives. And that, I don't remember what you called it, instinctive elaboration. We do that all the time, right? I know to certain degrees, different individuals kind of perseverate about questions based on how they think, but also everybody perseverates on questions to some degree. And I have found for myself that when I ask the body, I do get more resolution because we're really getting to that. There's multiple layers of how we like armor ourselves, right? And people say limiting beliefs all the time. I want to get through my limiting beliefs, but it's not just beliefs. It's limiting beliefs. Sure. It's also limiting emotions. And there's also body armoring that goes into our limitations. And so when we ask the body, we can actually access not just the intellectual quote unquote belief, but we can access the whole pattern. We can access the emotions that are a part of a belief.
Mhm.
We can access the muscular armoring that comes along with all of that. And so we really do get to access our complete intelligence to be able to answer a question and get down to the core root of what's going on, not just the superficial levels of what's going on.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating process to go through, asking these really great questions of the body, because when we're asking these questions, we're asking the questions directly to the subconscious mind. And you've talked about this in other places, Ani, that our subconscious is right. Our subconscious tells our conscious mind how to think about things. And if our subconscious does not want to change something, it's going to tell our conscious mind to not change it. It's going to tell our conscious mind to deflect or defend. So when we ask questions that are intellectually based or even behaviorally based, our intellect can get really creative about how to deflect or defend those questions. But when you ask the subconscious mind directly the question, then it can no longer use the conscious mind to defend the program. It's almost like the spotlight goes like right on the subconscious.
Caught.
Right. The subconscious like gets, whoa, frozen in the headlights, but it's also programmed to answer the question. So it can't not answer the question either in a lot of ways. So the whole idea around somatic inquiry is where now we're having a dialogue directly with the subconscious. And again, just go back to the parts of the brain that we had talked about, right? So these reward centers, like those are parts of the subconscious processing centers of the brain. But when we ask body-oriented questions, we're also activating parts of the brain like the insula, which is a primary routing center for sensory and metabolic information that's coming from the body. It activates the default mode network. So we actually have other parts of the PCC come on, the posterior central gyrus come on, and also activating parts of the medial prefrontal cortex. So asking those really good questions actually starts to link together subconscious and conscious brain function in some ways also. But we're asking the body those questions directly so we can become aware of something new. The next step is decode. And as we take someone through a sensation-based motivation kind of coaching process, we ask questions to help someone become aware of, just like kind of like you did just a moment ago. But we also ask questions to help someone decode what's been cooking in their subconscious, what's been, like you said, limiting beliefs, stopping them from moving forward. And to do it with a question lowers the level of resistance to engagement with the process.
So the decode really does ask, like, where did this come from? Where did it start? Why is this happening, kind of thing. And Brian, I just heard recently somebody say, we don't need to talk about that. And I would agree from a coaching perspective that we don't need to, and it's not appropriate for us to dig into it. However, I have seen client after client not be able to identify why it's happening, where it started from, and then it just keeps going. The mind just keeps going back to it when we slip into a state that, you know, maybe we don't feel exactly how we want to feel or whatever. So I have found that it's the most complete way to serve my clients to do the decode, because when we can identify, and we do it very succinctly, came from there, started here, then it feels like there's that resolution and they can move on in a sustainable way. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you're talking, like, I just want to go off on this big sidebar, of course. I'll make it a little sidebar that, you know, we do a lot of work with natural laws, and hopefully we'll do a podcast soon on some natural law things. But one of the things that we teach in our somatic coach training program is natural law inquiry. So we're actually asking questions that specifically align with the way that the universe operates, with the way that nature operates. And when we ask those questions in particular, they create very natural and organic answers. But one of the laws of nature is the law of completion. so that as humans, we are, again, wired to complete things. And what you're saying is the decode is so important, at least what I understand what you're saying. And let me know if this jives or not. That what I hear is that the purpose of the decode in a lot of ways is to actually fulfill that law of completion. Because if we don't have an understanding about what happened in some way, or we don't have an answer around it, it's in a shadow, it's in a misunderstood place, we actually can't move on.
Yeah, totally. But why? The person will come back and ask. And I think it goes along with that reward center thing that you were talking about earlier.
Yep.
Yeah. So we do the become aware of, we do the decode, and then we move into modify.
Yeah, then we modify. We're still asking questions when we get to the modify, though.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
modify,
so important.
Modify really has a lot to do with choice.
Yes.
Which I think is so awesome, because in the way that we've been taught as humans, we've really been taught a lot of times that we have a choice, but there's a right choice. Back to the natural laws, the natural laws tell us that there's no actual inherent right or wrong. And so that would mean there is not inherently a right or wrong choice. But as we grow up, we're taught that there is a right or wrong choice. There is a right way to behave. There is a right thing to say or not to say. There is a right way to feel or not to feel. So we're taught all of these right or wrong kind of things. And my favorite thing about the modify stage is that, in our program, we actually empower whatever choice somebody makes. So one of the big things that we do is, when you choose yes or this direction, that's great, but you also can empower your no choice, and it's just as beneficial. So choice is something that a lot of us need to relearn.
Yeah. And just going back to the brain for a second, when we ask a question, we activate these reward centers in the brain. But when we tell somebody what to do, we activate more of these alarm centers in the brain. And so when we're doing coaching processes, especially somatic coaching, that's why this whole idea of somatic inquiry is so important, because as we're asking people's questions and guiding them to their own answers that are living in their body, and we teach people to have that conversation. How do you converse with the body? What's the language that the body speaks? That's a lot of what we're doing when we do this somatic inquiry work. And as we ask questions, as we go through, again, it activates different parts of our brain and our body so that there's less resistance to the process. Right?
Is there anything else you want to say about modify?
No.
Okay.
I'm good with modify.
So after modify, we move to reframe, which is really about creating a new reality.
Yeah.
Questions in terms of that you want to talk about?
Well, I think for me, one of the primary questions in creating new reality is, what reality do you want to create? And a lot of people, in my experience, like kind of two things. Well, maybe three things. But one thing is they've never been allowed to ask that question.
Yeah, that's true.
For themselves.
Yeah.
Number two, they ask that question before they've done the other three steps.
Right. Yeah.
And so they're trying to skip over all of the stuff that's already in place in order to create something new.
Yeah.
And that
you're just creating from a muck pile.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Which is why people then don't get results. So people ask us all the time, like, how do I meet my goals? How do I do the thing that I want to do? Well, one of the things is going through the actual process step by step, because if you're trying to create right off the bat, but you haven't gone through the other steps.
Yeah. It's like jumping to the end of the book, right? I'll just read the summary at the end and try to figure it out. And there's all the stuff in the middle that you missed. And then the third thing is actually just what you said, Ani. The third thing for me is that when we do somatic inquiry at the end of the process, in the reframe process, after going through all of it, you actually are starting from a clean slate in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And we have people align with, we call it the soul's agenda in our program, their true nature or their true values, who they really are, their authenticity. I just put like a lot of different words around how you can conceptualize it. A lot of people say align with what? Your higher purpose, those kinds of things. So we actually help people after getting through those other steps to align with their authenticity, the truth of who they are, and their higher potential to then move forward from there.
Yeah. And so what can you do somatic inquiry for, right? I mean, so you can do somatic inquiry for stress relief. You can do somatic inquiry for anxiety. You can do somatic inquiry, and for athletes can do somatic inquiry.
Oh, absolutely. You can do it for chronic pain.
Yeah.
Mental health issues, stress. Did you say that? Yeah, you can do it for just about anything.
Yeah. And there's this whole, what I love, and I'm kind of doing it right now, is the whole idea of somatic inquiry and the neuroscience around it. Like I just like love those kinds of things.
Yeah, you brought up some really interesting brain science in this episode that I thought was super cool.
Yeah.
Go
But
ahead.
no, I was just going to say it's like the whole idea of this inquiring, questioning in and through the body, I think is a lot of reasons why we got into this whole thing to begin with, right?
What do you
I mean, I
mean?
just think back when we were both doing body work with people and doing massage therapy, and stuff would come up for people and we didn't know how to deal with it as things kind of came to the surface of people's experience. And what I found very comforting was understanding that I didn't need to know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
I just had to know what questions to ask.
Yeah. That's one of the things I love about somatic inquiry actually is I'm not the expert.
Yeah.
The person's body is the expert, and they get to discover a really incredibly powerful self-empowerment that does not come unless you're asking the questions of the body, because the body really is, I don't think we talk about it enough. The body is the intermediary with the intellect because it lives in the body, the emotions because they live in the body because it's the body, and the spiritual nature, which plays out through our physicality.
Right.
It's the intermediary of all of our intelligence.
Yeah. And you could also say spiritual nature / energy system, right? I mean, so it's kind of, that's another part of that thing, that our body's a tangible part of our human experience, right? So a lot of the body becomes kind of like the focus point of who we are as humans, because it's in real, like it feels real anyway, sort of thing.
I see it.
I can see it. And you're absolutely right, Ani. It becomes the intermediary for our human experience. So to respect the intelligence of our bodies is like huge.
It's our complete human intelligence. So for you, just like Brian did with me, you can ask yourself, where in my body did I feel something? And what does it feel like when you're pondering any question? So I encourage you to do it today, because something's going to come up. You're going to ask yourself some kind of question about how you can improve upon this or that, or you're going to feel tension, or you're going to wish you could change something. And just take a pause and ask yourself, where in my body do I feel this issue? And what does it feel like? And you have started on the road to somatic inquiry. Just in case you're wondering, because I know people are going to want to know this, the somatic inquiry is really, we do some of it in other programs, but you really dive in and learn how to do all of that stuff in the SBMC program, the sensation-based motivation coaching program.
Yep.
That's really where you learn to become a somatic coach. And a somatic coach, from the Somatic Coaching Academy, is somebody who can tap into the intelligence of the body and have that wonderful conversation. So you get some aspects of it in other parts of the program, but if you really want to do the whole thing, that's what you're looking to do.
Yeah. And again, Ani, what you just reminded me of is the whole idea, again, coming back to completion. So I've kind of met and worked with people in the past who do somatic inquiry, and they're really good at kind of helping you become aware of something in your body. And there's a lot of power to that. And at the same time, once you become aware of something, if you're not trained to help someone do something with that and bring them to completion with it, a lot of times as a client, it feels like you've kind of been left hanging. So a part of the somatic coach training program is to become aware of, decode, modify, reframe. Going all the way through the process is where it becomes really, really powerful.
You know what else, Brian? That's one of the reasons why I love somatic coaching so much. And I love somatic therapy too. But the reason that I feel like somatic coaching is an evolution from somatic therapy is that the things that go on in our lives, the things that happen to us, are all helping us get to even more potential. That's what coaches do. And so that resolution that you're talking about really does happen when you do somatic coaching, because coaches are looking at, what do you want to achieve? Who do you want to be? What do you want to have? What do you want to do? And we're looking into the future. And one of the amazing ways to get resolution as we're going through the process from the past stuff is to look ahead. And coaching can help you do that. So try that somatic inquiry out for yourself and let us know how it goes. Give us a comment below. Email us at info@somaticcoachingacademy.com. We'd love to hear from you, and let us know how your somatic inquiry went. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We hope that this conversation will help you improve your practice and change the way you think about your work, your clients, and yourself. Continue your exploration of trauma-sensitive somatic coaching by listening to more podcast episodes at somaticcoachingacademy.com. You could be the trusted guide that people turn to help them with their most challenging situations and to reach their most precious goals. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.